comes the devil. Oh, here comes the devil. Oh, here comes the devil.
Oh, the devil with the devil, says I.
Shh, look out for the devil. Look out for the devil. Look out for the devil.
Oh, the devil with the devil, says I. You're so afraid of old man Satan, now why don't you stop your hesitating? You're gonna be a long time dead, so the devil with the devil, says I. You're always giving me the dickens, telling me that life's no easy pickings. But just as long as I have fun, why, the devil with the devil, says I. You can have your social teas and bingo for your fun, but the things I like to do, you stop me one by one. Now even if you make me stronger, that ain't gonna make me live no longer. So even if I go to shh, the devil with the devil, says I.
Look out for the devil, look out for the devil.
Oh, the devil with the devil, says I.
Welcome to the Leo Zagami Show with Leo and Christy, live from Palm Springs, California. 30 minutes past the hour. We are slightly late, but no worries. We're going to recover. And thanks to our sponsors who have permitted today's broadcast. Yes, who are given the possibility to discuss today Wicca, Freemasonry, and the pagan roots of democrats.
We say Wicca, I think.
Wicca. We
Yeah.
say I say Wicca, but yes, Wicca.
Did you get that from Italian?
Yeah, probably yes.
Okay.
Yeah, in Italy say Wicca, but yeah, Wicca, and we know there is a lot of witches and a lot of people who hate our president. They even published a book, The Magic for the Resistance, where they portray themselves as the one who are fighting the Nazis, witches and occultists versus kings and Nazis. After defeating Adolf Hitler, they want to defeat Donald J. Trump. Well, good luck with that. In any case, Christy, who are the sponsors of today's show?
Okay. It's Daniel and Ellen and Ian Boyle and Algazad and Nitza.
Thank you
Thank you guys so much.
Yeah, can I offer you an applause? Maybe a lo-fi pixeled applause, but it's a great applause. Here we go. Not bad. You're up there with you, Jared Gardner. Guys, what we're going to do with other sponsors, because we're not selling that many books these days. I know there is a crisis. I know that many of you have problems in investing money for a new book. But if you don't have a problem, I would suggest a bunch of books that today we're going to, of course, cite within today's show. And of course, there is also Christie's Confessions of an Illuminati Princess, Volume 1 and 2. We have also our cookery book. The books are also another way of supporting our broadcast. And in any case, guys, soon I want to be making a great announcement, but I'm waiting. I'm waiting because I want to really make sure it's all ready.
I know what it is. Always get the no first.
Okay. Yes, you get to
I get
always.
to edit.
Yeah. Okay, let's not add anything else. Let's start though with this whole thing that I have a bunch of books here today that, of course, I want to use for citations. Maybe they are useful or not. Wicca. Please read this, Christy. This citation from Sex, Cults, and Alternative Religions of David Barrett, B. Barrett.
Okay, until where?
Just here until here, yes.
Okay. Wicca. Wicca is simply another name for witchcraft, often used to avoid many of the negative connotations of the latter word. Wicca is usually traced back to a Saxon root meaning to bend, sometimes to a word meaning wit, as in knowledge or understanding, and sometimes, though with less justification, to a word for wise, as in wise woman. It should be remembered that in France, a midwife is still known as a sage, femme. Some, instead of witchcraft or Wicca, prefer to call it the craft. The term witchcraft covers a wide range of things. A news story in 1995 reported that over 100 women had recently been burnt to death, often with a petrol-soaked tire around their necks. In the Transvaal in South Africa, they had been accused by neighbors of being witches. It has been suggested that in the famous Old Testament injunction, "Thou shalt not suffer a witch to live," Exodus 22:18, the word witch might be better translated one who poisons well, which would make some sense for nomadic people living in the desert. Today's witches rarely match the popular image of the toothless old hag living in her hovel. They live in the country and the town in all Western countries. They are likely to be well educated, and many of them are professional people.
Okay, let me interrupt you a second, because Wicca is not really an old belief, or it's a modern pagan religion which was born actually in the 1950s. And today, I'm going to actually show you how it was generated after Aleister Crowley's work. It was Aleister Crowley who, at the end of his life, didn't have much money. He was an heroin addict. He needed desperately to produce money for his habit. He died with an heroin, with basically a needle that,
what a way to go.
What a way to go. Anyway, he apparently in 1946 chartered an OTO camp with this gentleman called Gerald Gardner, who is the guy who has created this system. And Gerald Gardner was a Freemason. He had been initiated in 1910 in Sri Lanka, in Colombo, in Ceylon, a place where I have been. And he was initiated in Freemasonry, like, of course, Crowley, but in an even more regular way, because he was actually initiated in the Sphinx Lodge number 107, which is a lodge founded by the Grand Lodge of Ireland. I'm going to show you now. This is just to introduce you to the character behind the whole thing, and then Christy will continue. Sphinx Lodge number 107, year of warrant 1861, meets at the Victoria Masonic Temple, Galface, Colombo, 03, Sri Lanka, on the fourth Monday of each month, still to this day. And this is where he got initiated. He apparently was elevated to Master Mason in 1911, and then he ceased to go to the Blue Lodge. He was active, I think, then in the Royal Arch, and he became associated with co-masonry on returning to England, mainly with a group known as the Fellowship of Crotona, an order affiliated with the Grand Orient of France, so a more progressive form. Co-masonry also is a mix, men and women. We know that a lot of French obediences with witches have their lodges in London.
There were some witches at my initiation.
in the lodge in London, and they were probably Wiccan practitioners. Now, he joined this fellowship, and then after moving to the Dorset area in 1939, he reportedly met the members of a new Forest Coven, a group, though, that introduced him allegedly to the ancient forms of pagan ritualism and witchcraft. However, the Crotone Fellowship was dismantled after the founder died, but then it's been revived and is practically alive and kicking here. Rosicrucian Order Crotone Fellowship, School of Esoteric and Magical Arts. Gerald Gardner was a typical guy of his time. He was also associated with theosophy. Theosophy, of course, is also what brought together the ancient mystery schools of the Western initiatic system with the the practices of the East, especially Indian practices. Aleister Crowley was a Kabbalist, but when it comes down to Wicca, Wicca is nothing of the source. In the sense, Wicca is Crowley making something more simple for the kitchen witches, for those people who didn't want to make an effort in studying the complex theory, the Kabbalah, the Hermeticism, this and that of Telema, and So he sells because he wanted money. I mean, he gives a charter that I'm going to show you now. This charter is the charter that was given by Crowley to Gerald Gardner. This is an article, by the way, that was published by a guy from the OTO, Rodney Orpheus, in 2009. And in this article, there is also the OTO charter. Here we are. I want to show you the OTO charter that was given to Gardner. This is very important because, you see, Crowley gives the OTO charter and gives all the rituals after to Gardner of the OTO. He joins the OTO as at the fourth degree, which is the equivalent of the fourth degree of the OTO is the Royal Arch. And he presented himself to Crowley as a Royal Arch Mason. So at the time, you could join the OTO with the equivalent Masonic degree, something that doesn't happen these days. So what happens next? Crowley dies in December 1947, but in the meantime, Gerald Gardner receives from Crowley also some rituals, some material that eventually would become the basis for what would be later called the Book of Shadows. The Book of Shadows will become the basis of Gardnerian magic. Gardnerian magic would be, let's say, officially launched in the 1950s. And then from that moment onwards, all these different Wiccan currents are born, and we're going to now address each one of them. But please, Christy, continue.
I have to see where I was.
Okay.
Okay, I might read the same thing.
No, I try not to. You need some light?
Did. No.
Okay.
You can remove it. Today's witches rarely match the popular image of the toothless. Oh, I read that already.
Yes.
Male witches are called witches. Terms such as, I sped up.
Okay, but
they are likely to be well educated. Just listen.
Oh, okay.
And many of them are professional people, old and young. They are likely to be men.
And one thing, though.
Men as women.
Most witches today,
not men.
Apart the fact that it's very inclusive of Wicca, so anything goes in Wicca, is very leftist. You will notice from also studying Magic of the Resistance that today's Wiccan practices are mainly done by leftist witches. The witches who cursed Charlie Kirk, who unfortunately died on September 10th, were Wiccan practitioners who then were commissioned by the online magazine Jezebel. So this is very important what we are discussing today.
Male witches are called witches. Terms such as warlock and wizard belong only in fantasy novels. One point must be made clearly here once again. Witchcraft has nothing to do with Satanism. Witches do not worship Satan.
Now, if that is what they usually use to disguise themselves, I always noticed that when I used to go, for example, to a conference in a bookshop, a celebrated bookshop in London called Atlantis. Christy, you went there with me. Often you will have these beacon people attending, and they will always try to affirm that they will have nothing to do with this and that. But then when you get to know them, they will be like, our initiation are the more fierce. We are the most dark. We do real magic. All kinds of this kind of nonsense.
Oh, God.
Okay.
Again and again, during the research for this book, witches and other neo-pagans said that this is still the most common misunderstanding they have to cope with. Medieval witches, with all its demonic trappings, rather than being any sort of reality, was very largely the creation of the two Dominicans, who around 1486 wrote the Malleus Maleficarum.
Okay, we know that there was, of course, an Inquisition. We know that a lot of witches were persecuted. And we know that Wicca was launched in a time in which, of course, the church didn't have anymore that grip on society. And of course, at that point, we know that we are in the 1960s. By the time Gardner dies in 1964, anything goes. The Beatles, the hippies are arriving, and then in the second half of the 60s, all hell breaks loose. So things have changed very much. But please, let's talk about the recent beginnings, because Gardner based his work on some previous work from Dr. Margaret Murray in particular.
Okay. Dr. Margaret Murray.
Please, read from the beginning.
Okay. The recent beginnings. To some extent, modern witchcraft is the creation of a retired British civil servant, Gerald Gardner. Before him, however, providing at the time the powerful backings of academic study, came the anthropologist Dr. Margaret Murray. Murray argued persuasively in The Witch Cult in Western Europe, 1921, and The God of the Witches, 1931, that the medieval witches didn't worship the devil, but were followers of an old pre-Christian pagan religion, which appears to be the ancient religion of Western Europe. Murray called this worship Diane, after the goddess Diana.
Dianism.
Okay.
Yeah, there is actually various branches of Wicca. Now, we will try to discuss most of them, but it will be almost impossible to discuss all of them. The most known ones, of course, is the central one, the key one, the originator, Gardnerian Wicca. Then you have Alexandrian Wicca. Then you have Blue Star Wicca. Then you have Celtic Wicca. Then you have Dianic Wicca, sorry. And this Dianic Wicca is a feminist-leaning tradition that focuses exclusively on the goddess and is known for its matriarchal structure. It's a feminist form of Wicca that was born in Budapest, and it's was actually born in a library, in a bookshop that called itself the Wicca Feminist. And they were, and I mean, that is really what was going to bring us to eventually discuss later on also, unfortunately, the connections, the pagan roots of the Democrat Party here in America, and the abortion extremism that they have, which is rooted in the sacrifice of the fetus, the sacrifice of the children, of the abortion as a human sacrifice. Please, Christy.
Now I don't know where I am.
Please.
Okay, Murray.
Okay.
Murray has been criticized on many academic grounds. Richard Cavendish, the eminent historian of the esoteric, states This brilliant and ingenious theory is unfortunately full of holes and has been demolished time and again. This didn't stop the Oxford University Press splashing on the U.S. paperback of The God of the Witches. The findings she sets forth, once thought of as provocative and implausible, are now regarded as irrefutable by folklorists and scholars in all related fields.
They are talking about this book that came out in 1921 that was extremely inspirational. It's called The Witch Cult in Western Europe, a study in anthropology by Margaret Alice Murray. It was actually published in Oxford at the Clarendon Press, so it kind of regained at the beginning some kind of academic credibility, though, like we said, it was criticized. When you go and actually see what it's all about, it says the mass of existing material on this subject is so great that I have not attempted to make a survey of the whole European witchcraft, but I have confined myself to an intensive study of the cult in Great Britain. And it's going to be this study that this gentleman that you see on the left of your screen, Jared Gardner, used as the basis then later on for conceptualizing and creating his Wicca.
Yeah, Wicca.
Wicca.
We say Wicca.
Okay.
Okay. We don't say it like that. We don't say Wicca. Okay. Other scholars now point out that there is actually no evidence whatsoever for a religion of one goddess. Early pagan religions were pantheist rather than female monotheist. Murray, they say, came up with her theory, then selected evidence to support it. Whatever the factual truth, Murray's thesis, with the added weight of Robert Graves' The White Goddess, 1946, a study of the moon goddess in many different cultures, which perhaps contain more poetic than historical truth, has become accepted wisdom for many of today's neo-pagans, making it possible for them to say they are recreating the old religion, not creating something which is solely New Age.
Which is the case, because let's not forget that he's born and his whole religion and witchcraft, modern witchcraft concept within the Theosophical Society frame, which mixes...
Like Madame Blavatsky.
Yeah, and Luciferian beliefs. So this is really a modern religion disguised as an ancient one. Please, continue.
Oh. Present-day Dianic, that's Dianic, not
Yes.
Diane. Okay.
Dianic.
Okay.
Dianic because from the goddess Diana.
Present-day Dianic Wicca stems very much from Murray's thesis. It is a religion of the goddess and very much a religion for women. It has been argued that Dianic Wicca and similar religions are historically more a spiritual expression of the feminist movement than anything else.
Okay, I want Christy now to read from the book of Margaret Murray this passage on child sacrifice. Here.
Oh, okay.
Please.
It's on the computer?
Yes.
I read better on the book. Okay. Child sacrifice. The child victim was usually a young infant, either a witch's child or unbaptized. In other words, it did not belong to the Christian community. This last is an important point and was the reason why unbaptized children were considered to be in greater danger from witches than not baptized. If there be any children unbaptized or not guarded with the signs of the cross or horizons, then the witches may or do catch them from their mothers' sides in the night, or out of their cradles, or otherwise kill them with their ceremonies. The same author quotes from the French authorities the crime laid to the charge of witches, among which are the following: they sacrificed their own children to the ritual, the
duel before baptism.
The duel before baptism, holding them up in the air. Amore, this isn't even like English.
Yeah,
it's like V's in French, and
then thrust a needle into the brain, and then thrust a needle into their brains.
Oh my God!
And they burn their children when they have sacrificed them. Bouguet says, les matrones et sages femmes sont accoutumes d'offrir à Satan les petits enfants que les réjouissent et pour faire mourir le baptême. So this le baptise. So this is based, of course, also on the fact that they believe that by doing that, they could, of course, acquire not only the favors of the gods and Satan, but also they will acquire somehow also a way of rejuvenating themselves. This, of course, is just one of the many citations from the book that then will inspire that guy we have been discussing until now, the guy who will go and make a deal with 666 himself, Aleister Crowley. When he presents himself to Crowley as a Royal Archmason, Gardner, in his first meeting, then will be able to affiliate to the OTO directly in that way. And Gardner was elevated to the fourth of the OTO sometime during his contact with Crowley in May, I think of 1946. So I mean, or at least in the middle of the 40s. And we have a lot of testimonies regarding Crowley and his relationship with Gardner and how he arranged Gardner initiation into the OTO. Gardner learned a lot from Crowley. It was thanks to Crowley that he threw the basis for his Book of Shadows. His Book of Shadows that will become the central text, and here I'm going to show it to you, of his new religion that will kickstart with the initiation of a high priestess in the early 1950s. And this is an original copy of the Book of Shadows. Like I said, without Crowley, probably we will not have this Book of Shadows. Now, Gerald Gardner starts his first coven, the Bricket Wood Coven, in the late 1940s, early 1950s. This was apparently the witch's cottage, which was used by him. I'm going to show you an image of it. It's very British. This is the place where he used to hang out with his witches. He was able to start this religion, and the first woman to really be initiated was this one. And she looks like a complete and utter Karen from the leftist of leftists. No,
they have a look.
I mean, they have a specific look, these witches of the Democratic Party, of the Democratic Party. And she was really the one that kick-started this whole thing with the Gardnerian Wicca. Gardnerian Wicca becomes the initial the tradition that starts from Gardner, and the term Gardnerian was coined by the founder of what is known as Cochrane craft, also Cochranianism, which is a religious movement similar to Wicca, that considers itself a traditional form of witchcraft that sprang out of the teachings of Gardner. So basically Gardner opened a can of worms, and once he opened them up, it was never ending, guys, because after the Gardnerian Wicca, and of course after the practices with this, he started, like I said, like as a Mason. Then he went into Rosicrucianism. He also became part of the Theosophical Society. He then allegedly met with a New Forest coven who allegedly initiated him into their ranks in 1939. And it was this coven that apparently made out of a group of pagan witches around the area of New Forest in southern England, a beautiful place, where he was initiated to the mysteries before then meeting Crowley. I think that without Crowley, he would not have been able, though, to create his witch cult in the way that we know it today. Crowley was a guy who, of course, we consider diabolical, a great writer of the occult. He had the capacity of synthesizing many different traditions from the East, the West, everything, and summarize them like he did in many of his books brilliantly. And so that's really, I think, the basis more than anything else. However, Gardner described some of his experiences with the coven in his published books, Witchcraft Today, that came out in 1954, 10 years before he died, and The Meaning of Witchcraft, that came out in 1959. By the second half of the 50s, he already had a number of followers, and Wicca was starting to spread. At the beginning of the 60s, though, that would be when Wicca really took off and became many different kinds of Wicca. And one of the most, let's say, influential and well-known forms of Wicca is Alexandrian Wicca. Alexandrian Wicca connected to a gentleman who is called Alexanders, also known as the King of Witches, who I'm going to show you now. He looks like more the king of idiots, but I mean, he's dressed up like I don't know. I mean, he must have kind of probably found some parliaments from an old Anglican priest and adopted him in his twisted form of Wicca. He became, though, the founder of Alexandrian Wicca, and together with his wife. And he created a new form of Wicca. He went under the craft name Verbius. Let's not forget that there is a lot of Masonic elements in Wicca, because it was created within that, that milieu of people. So you have ceremonial magic, you have Crowley's influence, you have some Masonic influence, and you have, of course, what is some modern pagan lore. And Alexandrian Wicca starts to take off in the 1960s. It becomes very, very popular. Probably at one point even overshadows its original founder of Gardnerian Wicca. He was raised in a working class family, which is very important to say that when you're talking about somebody from England, because people have to understand, in England, everybody is defined by the accent and the social class they belong to. He was from Sussex in England. He talked with a heavy accent. He didn't have the kind of present and accent that Crowley had.
How is his?
It was a little bit more of a common accent.
And so Sussex is more like...
in Sussex, but I mean, like I said, from a working class background, he started to study in the local spiritual churches before going on to study and practice ceremonial magic. In 1963, he was initiated into Gardnerian magic the year before Gardner died. So he had a connection with the original Gardnerian magic. But like many others, like I said, Gardner opened a can of worms. He created a system that anybody could start adopting and remixing and creating at their own like. So Alex Sanders, who died in 1988, and claimed to have been initiated by this Welsh-speaking grandmother, Mary Beebe, as a child, and some kind of because then all of these people somehow claim they have some kind of lineage of witchcraft that comes from also their family. Okay, now the wife, who was 20 years younger, Maxine Sanders, was of course appearing with him in a number of documentaries. It was the moment in which these things were very they were doing documentaries later on in 1966 on the Church of Satan, Anton LaVey, on these witches. There was a lot of interest in the 1960s. And we know also why. It was all the LSD, all the drugs that open, of course, themselves to the demonic. We have, of course, the mind control operation of MK Ultra to blame for parts of it. But in Great Britain, it was also part of the fact that the witchcraft was no longer a crime. And this is what I think sanctioned. I think, let me see in which year witchcraft was no longer a crime in Great Britain, because this, I think, defines also the birth of all this and the expansion of all this. Witchcraft Act 70 was abolished, and I tell you when it was abolished, because it was abolished in 1951, you see? So it makes complete sense. The Witchcraft Act of 1735 was abolished just before Gardner created Wicca. It was like no longer they had to be, this is the Witchcraft Act, an act of Parliament of Great Britain, that, imagine, was in place until 1951.
Wow.
So all this was in place until, and then after, when it was no longer in place, there was somehow the freedom. You see, it says repealed 22nd of June 1951. So once there was no longer any limitations, here we have the expansion of witchcraft, and this expansion saw as one of the main stars, of course, Gardner, and then later on we have Alexandrian Wicca. Alexandrian Wicca started to spread to Australia, to Brazil, South Africa, Canada, and of course also the United States. It created also other factions in the Boston area here in the United States of America. A family who was directly involved with the Alexandrian Wicca coven, and who had directly downline from Coven Chitonoyoi. I don't know how you spell it.
I don't know.
It's really difficult to spell. You can find it if you want yourself here on Wikipedia, but it's really difficult to spell. They started also to have a lot of success, and basically they grew out of the Alexandrian practice of its founders, and they claimed to have ulterior rituals and things to offer, and of course an ulterior initiation. But this is only the beginning. Like I said, Wicca has so many cults and so many branches that is even confusing. Blue Star Wicca. Blue Star Wicca, for example, is created in the United States in the 1970s, basically loosed on Gardnerian Alexandrian tradition mixed together. Their symbol is a blue septagram.
I bet a lot of these things came out of California.
Yeah, a lot of these things came out of California, depending also on the, here we are. This was their symbol. And of course, in this case, it came out of Philadelphia, another leftist stronghold. It was the Coven of the Blue Star, and a gentleman known as Frank Dufner. And in 1980, on its membership application to the Covenant of the Goddess, the Coven is described as practicing great American, non-traditional, collective, eclectic Wicca.
Yikes.
Now, I repeat, this was only the beginning, because then there was all kinds of practitioners, books that were published. One of them was The Flowering Rod, Men, Sex and Spirituality. That was quite a success in 1993, published on Delphi Press. But the Blue Star tradition theology is kind of flexible, kind of, like most of the Wicca is, but allows polytheists, pantheists, and monotheists to participate all together in their invocation and prayers, and of course, centers on goddesses of the pagan world. But this is not the only one, and we have a lot to go through, because, like I said, their tradition spread like wildfire. Celtic Wicca was born also from Gerald Gardner. And it's like a modern form of Wicca that includes, of course, the seasonal festival within which, because in Wicca is very important for these neo-pagans to have the wheel of the year and to follow these seasonal festivals. And this is the wheel of the year, Christine. I want to show you. You have Beltane, you have all the, and we are approaching, of course, Halloween, so it's all part.
They get busy.
They get very busy. They get very busy. And this is, like we said, Celtic. And then you have Dianic Wicca. And Dianic Wicca, like I said, Dianic Wicca is dedicated to the goddess. It was founded in the United States by somebody known as Susanna Budapest, who apparently, with a tradition named after the Roman goddess Diana, and it somehow originated in Budapest, and then it came to the United States. No? The Dianic Wiccan belief is also eclectic and combines elements of traditional Wicca and Italian folk magic, what they call tradition of le streghe, or la stregoneria. So it has elements of Italian magic and healing practices and stuff like that. The Budapest thing I never understood, but it is apparently connected to this feminist in Budapest. However, I mean, it's a complete leftist crazy thing in which they practice, of course, what they say is the healing from the wounds of patriarchy, you know, because they're feminist and they're being wounded by the man. And so they have to, you know, now the difference is from other forms of Wicca is that they have this over-feminist tone. Now, I want to get Christy to read this to make understand how these people are insane. This is from The Magic for the Resistance, Michael M. Hughes, a Freemason we exposed in my books. I will advise people to read Volume 5 of my Confessions in particular, but also Volume 9, which it's, as you know, a book about the 7 steps to the secrets of the New World Order, from transhumanism and immortality to Gnosis, Jesus, UFO, and insect witchcraft, which is also a form of witchcraft, of course. Right. Here we're talking about Witch, an organization which is the initials for Women International Terrorist Conspiracy from Hell.
Oh my goodness. A group of radical feminists took inspiration from the creative, shocking political theater of the Yippies. When New York radical women split over tactical disagreements, several of the members formed Witch, or Women's International Terrorist Conspiracy from Hell. Their inaugural action took place on Halloween 1968, when the members, dressed in stereotypical witch garb, marched to Wall Street to hex the financial district. The Dow Jones average dropped sharply the next day, for which the witches were more happy than to take credit. One of their leaflets stated, "If you are a woman and dare to look within yourself, you are a witch. You make your own rules. You are free and beautiful. You can be invisible or evident in how you choose to make your witch self known. You can form your own coven of sister witches. 13 is a cozy number for a group, and do your own actions. You are a witch by saying aloud, 'I am a witch' 3 times. I am a witch 3 times, then you're a witch." Thinking about it. You are a witch by being female, untamed, angry, joyous, and immoral.
Now,
immortal. Yes,
immortal.
Immortal.
Okay, just stay there a second. No, stay there a second, because I want to make you read something else here. Now,
we just gotta face God someday. That's it. We all do.
Wicca was always was always had this goddess feminist element from the very start in their DNA. Many Wiccan groups hold what is known as the charge of the goddess, which is, as some describe, the nearest thing the craft accepts as a statement of faith common to all. The charge was written by Gardner and his initiate Dorothy Valiente, the one we showed with the glasses, with some sections taken from Leland's Aradia, and so perhaps going back hundreds of years. There are many different versions of the charge today, and here I want to present one of them, which it's really to make understand a little bit better the Wiccan belief. The charge of the goddess. Christy, give us the charge of the goddess.
Okay.
You need the light?
Okay, why not? Listen to the words of the Great Mother, who of old was called Artemis, Astarte, Athene, Dion, Melusine, Aphrodite, Saradwin, Diana, Erenthod, Isis, Brigd, I'm probably saying these wrong, and many other names.
You will be kicked out of a coven, Christy.
Whenever ye have need of anything, once in the month, and better to be when the moon is full. This is weird English. Mm-hmm. Then shall ye assemble in some secret place and adore the spirit of who am Queen of all witches.
It's weird English.
Ooh, Queen of all witches.
Yes. Now let's not forget why it's weird English. Gardner was still in the vein of Crowley's English.
Oh my God! You know, is he going to talk disgusting?
No, that kind of English, Victorian,
yeah.
a little bit, was still using that kind of formula.
And ye shall be free from slavery, and as a sign that ye be really free, ye shall be naked in your rights, and ye shall dance, sing, feast, make music, and love all in my praise. For mine is the ecstasy of the spirit, and mine also is the joy on earth. For my law is love unto all beings. Keep pure your highest ideal. Strive ever towards it. Let not stop you, turn you aside, for mine is the secret door which opens upon the door of youth, and mine is the cup of the wine of life, and the cauldron of Cerwaldwen, which is the holy grail of immortality. I am the gracious goddess who gives the gift of joy.
Don't you see a lot of similarities with Crowley?
I don't know Crowley at all, darling. I've never read anything.
You studied the Israeli God, you studied other.
Yeah, but I was just doing research.
Okay, but you studied the unfortunate. You find some similarities here.
Just the goddess thing.
Okay.
Nor do I demand sacrifices, for behold, I am the mother of all living, and my love is poured out upon the earth. I am the beauty of the green earth, and the white moon among the stars, and the mystery of the waters, and the desire of the heart of man. This isn't like a ritual, isn't it? Like manifestation of some donkeys.
The charge is.
It's not like bad. It's bad, but do I have to read? Is it
no?
Bad
But if we go here in the end, it says, "Thou wilt never find this without."
That sounds like
that is very close.
Thou wilt never find it without.
So it's like
that sounds like him.
So there is a very, very strong element of Crowley, and this in fact is confirmed also by people, academics, historians, who of course have made the research based on what we are saying today. Like I said, these people have generated a number of Wicca movements, but let's not forget that they have also been involved in politics. The Dianic Wicca developed from the women liberation movement, and some covens traditionally compare themselves with radical feminism. Dianics prides themselves on the inclusion of lesbians and bisexual members in the group and leadership. It is a goal within the many covens to explore female sexuality and sexuality essentially outside of male control, and many rituals function to affirm lesbian sexuality, so making it a popular tradition for lesbians and bisexuals. So when, for example, me and Christy went here to the local libraries and we saw certain books, Christy, do you remember what kind of books?
That wasn't a library, that was a bookstore.
Yeah, we went to both here in Palm Springs. And then we went also to that mall in which there was a bookstore with titles, which were, and the titles, how were the titles? They were outrageous. All this kind of stuff that
queers for witches, I don't know, stuff like that. Rainbow love and witches, and I mean all
kinds of magic, because definitely Wicca becomes eclectic. It is not a single tradition, but a broad term for people who also practice it not only in a coven situation, but also in a solitary situation. So you have, aside from all the other currents of Wicca, you have a large number of Wiccans who do not exclusively follow any single tradition or even are initiated into a single tradition, but are practitioners somehow. And there is a lot of them in the left. In contrast to the British traditional Wiccans, these other kind of Wiccans, like I said, experiment also all forms. And I have myself, when I was in the OTO, I noticed that the heads of these Wiccan convents, they were all people like Nikolai de Matos Fritzford, or very experienced people within the OTO or other secret societies, Freemasons, who use those witches' coven to empower their acts of magic, and to create an egregore that they could use also in their black magical operations. So I hope that today people have realized the fact that Wicca is not just something innocent. There is something else. There is also another tradition known as sex Wicca. This mixes element of Anglo-Saxon paganism. It was created by a guy called Raymond Buckland in the 1973, who came, of course, from Gardnerian Wicca, and then mixed these elements of Anglo-Saxon paganism and created this new form of Wicca. And this is the cover of the founding text, the complete book of Saxon witchcraft. So, I mean, it's really, it's a never-expanding word, the word of Wicca. And you have, like I said, in Anglo-Saxon, in this sixth Wicca, you have the use of runes. I noticed that is also contemplated, especially in Scandinavia. A lot of Wiccans were using that. So you have, and then politically, you see, let me show you something. This is an article from the Biden era, from the Hill, 2022. Shows, of course, one of the monsters of the Democratic Party. In any case, the interesting thing regarding the Democrats' position on abortion is the please read, Christy, because this is very interesting.
But Democrats' position on abortion is the archaic one. Abortion is an archaic practice. In pagan Rome, abortion was commonplace, performed by a variety of surgical and medicinal methods and taken for granted by philosophers, Plato, for example, laid out in Book V of the Republic. Book 5 of the Republic, various regulations of what offspring should be conceived and prescribed abortion. For any infants conceived outside of those regulations, including by women older than 40 and men older than 55. The ancient pagan largely accepted infanticide as well. And the exposure of infants was common. The Greek father had an absolute right to expose his children. Exposure of infants, especially girls, was common and often linked to economic concerns about raising too many children. But even in large families, more than one daughter was practically never reared. Termination of female infants was so common as to contribute to a dramatically skewed sex ratio, estimated at 131 males per 100 females in the city of Rome, and 140 males per 100 females in Italy, Asia Minor, and North Africa.
Now, this archaic willingness to dispose of infants fits into a broader callousness towards human life.
Callousness,
yeah. In any case, the fact that the Democrats support abortion, it's also linking them somehow to the pagan practices of abortion. So there is this whole discussion that emanates here. And it says also from its earliest days, the Christian Church rejected abortion in infanticides based on recognition of the intrinsic values of infants. But like I said, the pagan roots of Democrats' abortion extremism are there. And Wicca is celebrating all those leftist tendencies, from feminism to abortion to all these things. So I think that today we have understood how these people created something out of thin air, literally, because Wicca didn't exist until they abolished that law that prohibited witchcraft in Great Britain in 1951. And then, of course, there is always the involvement of Aleister Crowley somehow.
Yeah,
the
all
beast,
the evil.
and all the evil. The beast of the apocalypse is there to somehow give the basis for the development of this whole project. And it seems like he actually comes in at the right time, because he died in December 1947, but he manages to give his, all this knowledge that he had, ceremonial, magical knowledge, to this guy, Gardner, who then makes use of it. So what have you learned today from this show, Christy? I mean, it is, of course, something that we have discussed in the past, witchcraft, the influence of witchcraft.
I didn't know there was so many branches of it.
So,
but I wanted to add that I think that a lot of young people, they're misinformed because, when you actually because when I did a lot of research in Freemasonry too. I'm not a Freemason if you've just joined this show, and I don't do any of this stuff.
But you became a Freemason, and then
I'm not a Freemason.
Well, but you became a Freemason. Where are you initiated? Because a Freemason will tell you, did you get initiated? Then even if you are no longer an active Freemason, you still had the experience.
Is it like once a Freemason, always Freemason?
Well, that's what
I don't want to be one.
Well, in any case, you went through the experience, and you saw, and you actually saw those witches, and
they're mean. But anyway,
okay. And you had also
witches are always really mean.
You had experiences with witches also in other groups, and you had also negative experiences. So that's important, because you actually had the possibility of having direct experience.
But I was going to say that these young people, they go on the internet and they if you just read off of the internet stuff about Wicca, it just says that they worship nature and there's white witches, and they have their crystals, and they form the energy circles, and they try to bring. I mean, I've heard it. I don't think that's Wicca though. But I mean, I don't know anything about this. I don't. So
but that is Wicca. I mean, that is Wicca.
Well, yeah, that kind of thing, but it to people that don't understand, it might seem very, I don't know, just very innocent. If you don't know, if you don't understand.
And we saw also, these witches who are organizing themselves. And for example, Michael M. Hughes, who I've exposed in my books, who is a Freemason, who is a member of the Società Rosicruciana in Anglia, and himself, who is leading all these covens of witches, is once again the demonstration that yes, these witches operate, but in the end, on top of the system, there is always a manipulative figure, a guy who takes on the guidance aspect of the Sabbath of the witches. And it's like the witch doctor of the situation, the guy who is in charge of all these witches. And in fact, the fact that
the witches
they did all these rituals to bind Donald J. Trump. I mean, and what they did with Charlie Kirk. And Trump,
this
who
is
had
so evil.
two,
We all need to pray.
and Trump, who had two attempts against his life,
Disgusting.
and they are, of course, even writing a whole book on how to fight Donald J. Trump. Is just insane.
It's
I
just
mean,
gross. It's just gross. It's just gross.
And they even have a ritual for Black Lives Matter, spell for justice for a victim of a police action. Come on, guys. I mean, and then no borders, all one family, invocation to Hermes. I mean, you see, some people say it was a false flag. I had this already in my Italian show.
Oh,
Charlie
no.
Kirk
Charlie Kirk. Oh, how can you say that?
Guys, come on. Here they have even an X on the NRA. These people are insane. I mean, I know that you want to be into conspiracy theories, guys, but poor Charlie Kirk gave his life.
Poor wife, poor kids. How could you say that?
It's just
it's evil to say that.
Absolutely.
Anyway, I want this show to end now. I'm ready.
No, but really, guys, you should have a limit to what you can consider real. And okay, I understand there is many conspiracy theories regarding how he was killed or the reason for Charlie Kirk being killed. That is something that we can discuss here. But to actually state that Charlie Kirk is still alive, guys, you must have some serious problems. Okay, thank you for following this show today. And let's thank our sponsors, Christy. Who are the sponsors?
Thank you, guys. You guys rock.
Yeah?
Malgrazada Minta, Ian Boyle, and Daniel and Ellen.
Okay, and remember, guys, another way of financing your show is to purchase the Zagami Family Cookbook, transforming with this authentic Italian cooking book your kitchen, however modest it is, in a 5-star Italian restaurant with the best recipes for your spaghetti meatballs, for your cacio and pepe pasta, and of course, all this with great pictures. Chris is also a great photographer, so it's very yummy, and you have a sense really of really wanting to go and cook this food as soon as you see the pics that Christy made. It's Zagami Family Cookbook, authentic Italian cooking. You can find it on Amazon. You can also purchase my latest book, which is volume 12 of my Confessions, the final installment of the Confession series. There will be no longer books in the Confession series simply because you need to read from volume 1 to volume 12, and you will have a whole prospect on what is really behind the New World Order. And then we might add, of course, new books and new experiences in the months and years to come, God willing. And now, bless you all. We see you next week. Thank you again for keeping on encouraging us by donating to us and also purchasing our books. Take care, guys. All the best. Remember, of course, they can do all the witch, all the witch rituals, whatever. But when you have faith in God, when you have the power of prayer, you can protect yourself. And Charlie Kirk wanted to protect himself, just a few days before he died, when he knew about this hex on him. He wanted to really call immediately this Catholic priest, to make this ritual of protection. But it's not easy. You need to have, of course, the right people to do these rituals of protection. Don't go to any charlatans. Anybody who asks money, it's already out, because these are things that have to be done from the heart. And hopefully you will never need them. You will never receive an hex or curse in your life, like our dear Charlie Kirk. God bless you all, and we see you next week. Of course, if we will receive more than a certain number of donations, we will also offer you additional shows during the week. And now, Vincenzo Viceversa, Medioevo!
In that time, our world has taken so many steps in the wrong.
If you like the show, please put like, subscribe to all our channels, and share this video and talk about our work to your friends and family so we can expand.
In the negative utopia, science, technology, social organization, dehumanization. In the negative utopia, science, technology, social organization. Social organization, dehumanization. Technology, social organization.